Hello guys, it's Chummas, and we're here doing another Beyblade discussion this time. I want to talk about the Beyblade X remake bays. So there's quite a few at this point, and I have some thoughts on them. So first up, let's start off with the overall blade designs. So first up we have Victor Valkyrie here, and one thing I gotta say, stickers, why? Now the funny thing is this is the one bay that has absolutely zero stickers, everything's printed on, which is the same for the other anniversary set bays, although these two, the face stickers have to be put on, but still close enough. Anything else though, like Xeno Excalibur, all of these stickers are, you know, things you have to put on. Why? I really think they needed to kind of get this under control. With CX, we're seeing that printed details are just something they could just do. They don't have to, you know, force you to put stickers on. So I don't get why we're still getting sticker sheets in 2025 if that's the case. You could say it's to be more accurate to those older bays, but maybe it's just me, but I think I'm fine leaving that in the past. Like with Bakutan Bays, they don't come on sprues or anything. Like, I don't want them to do that either. Like, we can leave that in the past. I think it'd be great if these bays could just have printed details, because things like Excalibur, or, you know, Lightnail Drago, this is another bad example. With all of these you have to put on. It's a pretty bad time. I don't want to be doing that if I'm being honest. Beyond that though, the blade design as a whole I think is questionable. I think for the most part, yeah, there might be small things I don't like, but for the most part, it's pretty good. I mean, Victory Valkyrie is one of the worst examples, I think, because I think Boost is just modeled too large. I don't like that. And for the Bakutan Bays, same kind of deal with the, you know, weight discs, which you could see on all of them, how they really take over the contact points. Now, I understand wanting to, like, subdue these, right? Because, yes, these would be too extreme for Beyblade X, but I think you could let them exist. I think Dracil is, like, the only one that's even remotely, like, fine, but even then, maybe a little bit too big, but still. I think these contact points should have been at least a little bit bigger. Just something to at least kind of feel like the shape of the bay is the same, not just a weight disc or something, or, you know, like how Victor Valkyrie is using Boost. No, I think, you know, Xeno Excalibur, this actually works very well. This is perfectly fine. Yeah, it looks kind of cursed, but still, I mean, they did what they could, and I think overall this is an effective design. Similarly, I think the same for the Metal Fight bays. These are definitely easier to, you know, make in Beyblade X, but yeah. Yeah, maybe like Storm Pegasus, I feel like it's a little bit too thin, but still, it's fine. Like, it's close enough. And I think Lightnail Drago is also like, a really well-designed remake. And yeah, Metal Fight is obviously going to lend itself the best because, well, it used metal for contact points, like X, so I do expect more concessions with Bakutan Shoot and Burst, but I mean, things like Xeno Excalibur prove that yes, you can still make an effective shape for a remake without having to sacrifice it entirely. Yeah, it's not as extreme as Burst Xeno, but it's still pretty good. I don't know why you can't do that for something like Victory Valkyrie. I get why maybe, you know, Boost would stick out, but I think you could have made this a little bit smaller to make, you know, these parts feel like the main contact points when they really don't at all. Like, these more so feel like the main contact points, and I really just don't like that very much. Now, the parts are where I really get some pretty massive problems here, so I just don't think a lot of the parts here match up effectively. So starting with the Bakutan Bays, I think that 460 Rubber Excel, again, this is one that I actually think does work. I think this is a perfectly fair combo. Now, for Dronzer, 380, I don't really think is a good choice personally. Shape-wise, and taper, I don't know about that one. I really feel like Dronzer should have been, you know, later, at least a few months to give it better parts, because I don't think 380 taper was a great move. I don't think it represents Dronzer all too well personally. Drigger is fine, 480 point, sure, I guess, it works. Dracil, 760, while it doesn't match up perfectly, I think it's still good enough. Dot, I actually think Dot is okay. Yes, something metal would have been preferred here, but Metal Needle is, in my opinion, just kind of terrible, and I don't actually think it represents Drasil all that well either, so again, I wish maybe we had like a metal ball to use here, but I think Dot is at least like fair. It's kind of a new idea, I guess, for Drasil, which I'm fine with. It's just it's definitely still not perfect, but it's probably as good as we were gonna get, honestly. Now for Metal Fight, we have Storm Pegasus with 370 Rubber Excel. So Rubber Excel, sure, 370. Okay, 3 sides is fine. However, 70. Pegasus is known for being short in Metal Fight. Why did you give this a height that isn't the shortest height at the time? Like, I don't understand that. So, that was a really stupid choice right there. But, we also have Lightnail Drago, which has 160 flat. 160. There was something about this thing like, oh, the 160 kind of looks like 100, which is the dumbest reason I've ever heard in my life. That's the reason why they went with this. But, one side is very stupid for this. Now, flat, I kind of get what they were going for here, but I feel like conceptually it's not as good, but obviously it kind of has the hole in the middle, so obviously representing whole flat, sure. But I feel like it's a little bit too aggressive. I think something like Rush would have worked better. I'll talk about why in a minute, but it makes sense from an aesthetic standpoint, but from a performance standpoint, not sold on flat. I'm definitely not sold on 160. Burst has things the worst by far. So Victor Valkyrie has a 260 Rubber Excel. Now Rubber Excel is a far cry from variable, but you know what? I'll take it. 260, apparently the whole thing about this is that 260 Rubber Excel just look like the variable driver, like how the sides of the driver stick out, you know. That's what 260 is trying to do, which is really stupid. This doesn't look like variable at all. I don't know what they're talking about, so I think they just didn't want to repeat ratchets in the anniversary set, despite repeating the same bit 3 times, but I don't know. 260 was a really bad choice, regardless. And then we get to another really bad one with Xeno Excalibur. So 360 is meant to be, oh, well, this is supposed to be like the Magnum disc, which aesthetically, yeah, sure, that works, but conceptually, I don't really agree with it, and then Gear Flat just doesn't actually make any sense for Impact, I don't think. They really should have gone for something better here. I don't know what this is supposed to even be. And that brings me to my last point. Design versus concept. A lot of these bays are designed with, well, the physical design in mind. Like Victor Valkyrie here. They wanted to make 260 Rubber Excel represent the driver, but that's stupid. I feel like if remakes want to be effective, they should try to balance the design with the concept. So basically, yes, the blades, I think, are going to look cursed. They're going to look weird. I think that maybe they could do a little bit better on some of these, especially the Bakutan and Burst ones, but these are mostly fine. I'm fine with them kind of being these awkward adaptations of, you know, old bays. But with the parts, I don't think they should be matching up aesthetically. I think, yes, color scheme and stuff should match up aesthetically. And yeah, if you have parts that look similar, but yeah, by all means, use them. But my problem is I feel like they kind of miss the point of the concept a lot of the time. Like, if Victor Valkyrie were to be released in Beyblade X as a brand new Bay, like, let's just pretend this was actually a original blade. It wasn't just a, you know, a remake. Why would this have 260? Like, it'd be a really dumb choice. Yes, I know X has had stupid ratchet choices before, but still, it'd be another one. This thing should have had 360 or 660, even 960 I think would have made sense. Rubber Excel I think is fair enough. Yeah, you don't have a variable equivalent at all, so I think, yes, this makes sense. Now, Xeno Excalibur is difficult because I could easily say, oh, well, 160 Excel would work perfectly, but then you have Drawn Buster, so do you make this sort of an echo of Drawn Buster? Well, you could, but alternatively, I think, oh, yes, you should probably have 160, because obviously that just makes sense for Excalibur. You still could have thrown something else on there. I think like a low flat could have made sense, or maybe even Rubber Excel if you want to get really crazy, although I know a few remakes already use it, but still, I think it would work fine. Hell, even Vortex I think would work better. Just something that I think feels more like Impact than Gear Flat does, I think would have been a lot better. Even again, Vortex I think is not too far off of what this was trying to do, but I think it's just more effective in its approach. And yeah, 160 definitely should have been on here again. That just would have made sense with, you know, this. For Storm Pegasus, Again, this is fine. Like, Rubber Excel, not only does it look similar, well, or at least closest we're getting right now, it's also conceptually fine. Cool. 370, almost good, just bring the height down, and I think that would have, you know, made a lot more sense. I think still this thing works just better as a short attacker, regardless of design or concept, so that should have definitely been brought down. Lightnail Drago, why 160? I think 960 would have been perfect for this thing, and also, yeah, use Rush, or even Low Rush. I think either one would have made perfect sense. It's more controlled. I feel like it embodies whole flat a lot better than flat does, despite having the kind of whole design right here. Again, this is where you sacrifice some of the physical design for some of the, you know, actual conceptual design. And it's something that I really hope that they kind of do moving forward. I don't really expect them to, but I mean, you know, it at least would be nice to see. Virtual Seal, this one, again, I get not using Metal Needle. In fact, I actually support that, but Dot still feels maybe a little bit too off from what they're trying to do. I think maybe even like Glide could have worked, or Ball. But the problem is, they probably consider it a standard type, which isn't right for Seal, so you get, you know, the types mixed up. It doesn't really work in that sense, which is kind of stupid to begin with, but I don't know. I thought it could have made more sense. If not, if we have to use a needle type of bit, I guess Dot makes sense, and yeah, 760, sure, so this one's a weird one. I guess I'll take it, though. Now, Trigger and Seal, I think both of these are kind of similar. I think they both could have just straight up had like the same ratchet. I think 4 sides. I think 80's kind of whatever, but still they could have both been brought down. But ratchets are kind of whatever on these. I think just make them, you know, 2-sided or 4-sided or 6, 8, whatever. Just some even number of sides I think would have worked the best. For bits, honestly, they both could have just had point. Trigger, I think point's fine, so this bay is mostly good, but with Dronzer, you could have done point. Alternatively, even better would have been Transpoint, because Transpoint actually, in my opinion, kind of embodies what Dronzer's all about. I mean, we even saw it on Crimson Garuda, the, you know, Dronzer-inspired bay. So I found it very unfortunate that they had to make this remake just so quickly to where we didn't even have that option. Like, it'd be great if they could just make new parts for these bays, I mean, and they could use them later. I know they generally just use old parts on remakes, but still, I don't see the point of why they can't just make a new part, because then you could just reverse engineer it to another bay, and have that bay have this, you know, new part for the anime or manga with promotions and stuff. I just don't like how they restrict these bays, because then they end up getting parts that probably don't represent them very well, and then a part that does actually represent them well comes out later, and then we're stuck with, well, Beyblade X Dronzer S, which is just kind of stupid. And then, yeah, Dragoon, yeah, 460 Rubber Excel, I really can't complain a whole lot about that one, so yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, 460 pairs fine with the blade. Rubber Excel, you know, I think makes sense for the bay as well. Matches the concept of Dragoons, so yeah. The point I'm trying to make is that we don't need every single element of these bays to reference the physical design of the original version. In my opinion, these remakes should be made to adapt these bays into a new system. An adaptation doesn't have to be one-to-one or as close as it can get. You can take liberties to try and make it fit better into the new system. That's perfectly fine. But I feel like they haven't been doing that enough. Yes, you could argue that Xeno Excalibur having gear flat is a pretty far departure from Impact, and maybe was their attempt at doing that, but I still don't think gear flat was the right choice. But maybe the idea was there, at least hopefully, because I would really like for these bays to kind of perform in similar ways to what they used to, based on their concept, not just try to make them look the same and leave them as simple shelf pieces. Though, with the weight of a lot of these blades, I feel like that might be exactly what they want to do, which, again, I don't agree with. Why not make these, like, legitimate bays? That'd be nice. But anyways, that's all I have to say about the remakes. I just want to make this video, now that I have all of them that I've released so far. So yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.